Tom walked down the cold, rainy streets, his clothes soaked through as the heavy rain pounded against him. His shoes made a squelching sound with every step, his once pristine sneakers now old and worn. As he trudged through the wet sidewalks, he couldn't shake the weight of the world on his shoulders. His business, once thriving, was now bankrupt. His family had distanced themselves after his failed attempts to fix everything. Every time he thought he was getting back on his feet, something else pulled him back down. Today, the final blow came when his last job interview had fallen through. Nothing left to do but face the truth. He had nowhere to go, no money to make it through the week, and no one to turn to. He glanced at a nearby cafe. The Help Wanted sign taunted him as he walked past. He was too proud to go inside. He couldn't bring himself to ask for help. His confidence had evaporated over time, and now he barely recognized the man in the mirror. With nowhere left to go, Tom raised his hand to hail a taxi. A yellow cab pulled over, the doors opening to offer some much-needed respite from the rain. With a small sigh of relief, he climbed in. "Fifth Avenue, please," he muttered. "I don't have much, but I can pay you when I get there." The taxi driver, Mike, looked over his shoulder, assessing Tom. He took in the worn clothes, the crumpled bills in Tom's hand, and the weary look on his face. "That's not enough for a ride, buddy," Mike said flatly. "I'm not wasting my time for that." Tom's heart sank. He tried again, desperation creeping into his voice. "Please, I've got nothing left, but I need to get there. I'll pay you back. Just take me to Fifth Avenue." Mike shook his head with a scowl. "Get out. I'm not doing this. It's not worth my time." Tom's face turned bright red, embarrassment flooding through him. He didn't even have enough money for a taxi, a basic need in a city like this. He grabbed his things and stepped out of the car, the door slamming shut behind him. The rain soaked him even further, but the emotional sting of rejection felt heavier than any downpour. He stood there, staring at the taxi as it drove off, leaving him on the empty street. His hands trembled as he stuffed them into his pockets. No plan, no way out. His entire body felt like a failure, and for a moment he questioned how he ended up here. He had been on top of the world once. What happened to that man? It was then, just as he was about to turn away, that he heard a voice. "Hey, you okay?" Tom looked up, startled. He blinked, unsure if he was seeing things. Standing in front of him, wearing casual clothes, was none other than Barron Trump, the last person he would expect to see on the rainy streets at that moment. "Are you all right?" Barron asked again, his voice soft and concerned. Tom blinked again, rubbing his eyes to make sure he wasn't imagining it. I just got kicked out of a taxi. I don't have any money left. I don't know what to do anymore." Barron's eyes softened with empathy as he took in Tom's appearance. His casual outfit, a hoodie and jeans, was a sharp contrast to Tom's damp, disheveled look. But it was his kindness, his genuine concern, that struck Tom most. "You don't have to worry about that," Barron said, his voice calm but firm. "I've been there before. I know what it feels like to hit a wall." Tom blinked in surprise. "You don't know what it's like. No one understands how far I've fallen." Barron smiled gently, shaking his head. "You'd be surprised. Everyone has their own struggles. What matters is how we keep going, even when it seems impossible." Tom felt a lump form in his throat. There was something about Barron's words that cut through his despair. He'd been so lost, so alone, that even a few kind words felt like a lifeline. "You don't have to help me," Tom said, looking down at his shoes. Barron stepped closer, his eyes meeting Tom's. "It's not about whether I have to. It's about what I want to do. Come on, I'll give you a ride." Tom was stunned. This was Barron Trump, the son of a famous billionaire. Why would someone like him want to help someone like Tom? But Barron's genuine smile left no room for doubt. Without thinking twice, Tom climbed into Barron's car, and they drove off through the wet streets. The rain seemed to fade away as the warmth of the car surrounded them. Barron spoke as he drove, his voice steady and full of wisdom. Life can be tough. We all face challenges that feel like they're too big to overcome. But it's not about the obstacles. It's about how we respond. Tom glanced at him, still processing everything. You really think I can get back on my feet? I don't even know where to start. Barron nodded, his eyes never leaving the road. It's not about knowing the answers right now, it's about taking the next step, even when you can't see the whole path. And it's about remembering that you're not alone. As they drove, the car pulled up to a small cafe where Tom was supposed to have his job interview. He had forgotten about it in the whirlwind of everything else, but now, as the car came to a stop, the reality hit him. He still had a chance to turn things around. Tom turned to Barron, his voice full of gratitude. I don't know how to thank you. You've done more for me than anyone else. Barron smiled, his eyes kind but serious. You don't have to thank me. Just remember this moment when you're able to help someone else. That's how we change the world. Tom stepped out of the car and walked into the cafe, his heart lighter than it had been in a long time. The rain had stopped, and the world seemed a little brighter. For the first time in months, he felt a spark of hope.